The room was too quiet. Not hospital quiet, guilt quiet. I'd been awake for less than an hour, and already I'd noticed it. The way she avoided my eyes, the way my brother lingered in the corner, too still, too polite. The nurse asked if I wanted to call anyone. I said no. My voice was hoarse from months of disuse, but my mind was razor sharp. I watched her fingers twist around her wedding ring, except it wasn't the one I gave her. She smiled too quickly when I caught it. Don't overthink, just rest. I let my eyelids fall, not because I was tired, but because I didn't want her to see me thinking. When the doctor came for his evening round, I didn't ask for water. I didn't ask for painkillers. I just asked for a pen. And I wrote a single sentence on the paper. He read it, looked at me, then nodded once, like he understood exactly what I wanted. By the time she left that night, the wheels were already in motion. It was the smell that came back first: engine oil, burnt rubber, the metallic tang of blood. The accident had been instant, my body surrendering to the black before I even realized what had happened. They told me I'd been gone, months gone, machines breathing for me, tubes feeding me. She'd been here, apparently, every day, reading to me, holding my hand, crying. Except I noticed the new gold chain around her neck, and the faint tan line on her finger where my ring had once been. When I asked, casually, about the house, her answer was too rehearsed. We had to downsize. Medical bills. You'll understand later. I nodded. Inside, something cold began to form. The next day, my brother visited, alone. He brought flowers. His cologne was the same brand as mine. He sat too comfortably in the chair beside my bed. He mentioned her name too easily. No hesitation, no awareness. When they both left together that evening, I closed my eyes and let the image burn into my mind. Her hand brushing against his as they walked down the corridor. Neither of them pulling away. I didn't accuse. I didn't question. I listened. To her phone calls in the hallway. To the way she lowered her voice when she said his name. To the clink of her new bracelet, one I knew he could afford, not me. I asked the nurse to bring me my wallet. It was empty. I asked a friend, quietly, through a borrowed phone, to check on the house. He sent me photos. It wasn't ours anymore. The title had been transferred to my brother. I started piecing it together like a mechanic dismantling an engine, slowly, carefully, making sure I didn't break the parts I still needed. Bank statements, sold assets, accounts drained. The pattern was too precise to be an accident. By the end of the week, I had the picture. While I'd been lying there, half dead, she'd signed herself to him. Not just emotionally, legally. The confirmation came in a thin envelope. The doctor slipped it under my blanket like contraband. Inside was everything I'd asked for: property transfer records, bank closures, and a marriage certificate dated 2 months into my coma. Her name, his name, together. When she came in that evening, I didn't smile. I didn't greet her. I handed her the envelope. She opened it. At first, confusion. Then recognition. Her breath caught. Her hand went to her mouth. I can explain. I looked at her, long enough for the silence to hurt. She kept talking, words spilling out, pity disguised as justification, bills, loneliness, fear. I listened, without blinking. She was still talking when I turned my head toward the window. That note I'd given the doctor my first day awake. It had been simple. Contact my lawyer. Move all insurance and remaining assets to a private trust. Notify no one. By the time she'd opened that envelope, the last of what she hadn't stolen was already untouchable. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. Instead, I told her one thing: 24 hours. She didn't understand. Not until the next day, when the hospital informed her that she was no longer my emergency contact, no longer on any paperwork, and that she'd be escorted out if she tried to enter without permission. Her calls went unanswered, her messages unread. I let her stew in the knowledge that she'd gotten almost everything, but not the one thing she wanted most: control. I left the hospital 2 weeks later, walking slower than I used to, but lighter. They'd think they'd won. They hadn't, because they still had to live with each other. Two people bound by greed, trapped in a house built on my absence. Every silence between them would whisper my name. I didn't need to see it. I didn't need to hear it. As I closed the door to my new apartment, I realized something. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about reminding them that the dead don't always stay buried, and some of us learn to walk again.